Everybody, welcome to my channel and another art journal tutorial. This one we're going to use some modeling place, a napkin, some stencils, and we're going to start off with a gel print. So I'm using this napkin. It's called Watch This, and it's from Ninny's Napkins. There is a link in the description box below where you can get this napkin, other Christmas napkins, or napkins for any season. Great variety, as well as stencils and other mixed media and art journal supplies. So I've pulled off the two excess white layers, and now I am water cutting with my liner brush and a little bit of water. I'm just cutting out the focal image that I want. Now I love the size of this Santa. It's going to work perfectly on my 7x10 page, but it would also work on a 9x12. So you have lots of usability with this one. And this one is just, I think he's just absolutely adorable. So I'm going to use some gel prints and masterboards, collage papers that I have, and audition them to see what color background. So yeah, the yellow works because of course that was what was in the napkin. The red, that's a little too much red on there. So I use those gel prints that I have in my stash to see which color works best with my focal image. With this one, I like how the blue of his eyes picks up the blue in the background. So that starts me thinking. I'm not exactly sold on this gel print. I'm just grabbing gel prints and papers that I have close. I think, oh, I have a picture of mine that I printed out of a pine tree. That would be kind of nice, Santa in front of the pine tree. And then I decide, I put it away and I go into my files to specifically look for something blue, green, teal, because I really liked how that one looked. And here's what I found. And I absolutely love the colors with this. I tested it, I auditioned it with the Santa now that it's cut out, and I'm deciding that I'm going to just glue this down on a background. Now, the other option would be to use the colors that are in here and create a background from scratch, but I'm just going to jumpstart my art journaling process here. So I'm cutting off the white excess and I'm going to glue it down. Now, this background I love. It's got some copper paint on it that really goes well with the orange red of the Santa suit. And that really clinched it for me. And it's not plain, it's not flat. There's lots of interest already in there. And I could use it as an Insta background where it is my background, but I'm going to add some things to it. So I glued it down with my fluid matte medium, and there was a little bit, it was a little too small. So I'm just filling it in with blue green, Amsterdam bloom green, and a little green there. And there's double, triple checking to make sure that everything is appropriately glued down. And look how lovely that looks. It really brings out that little bit of copper that's there, really works well. And the teal that's in the background, though, that's a complementary color to that orange red. That's why this works. Now, because the background is dark, I am gluing the Santa onto a piece of copy paper to keep all those whites white and the colors bright. If I had glued it on, I would have glued it onto the white page and then painted around it. So once that's dry, I am just quickly cutting my focal image out. And I really like it. Now I'm liking the stars on the Santa. There's some snowflakes and I want to add more. So I grabbed this fence grid stencil. This one, people, you got to get this. I love this. Every time I use it, I just love it more. And I'm using Naples yellow and I'm getting it very soft. And this to me, it looks like Christmas lights glowing in the night. So the backdrop is kind of like it's a Christmas tree in front of Santa. That's kind of the illusion I'm going with. And I'm going very lightly. I don't want opaque coverage here. I just want a hint of pattern. Now this fence grid stencil is one of the Slimline stencils, as is this one. This one's called Crystal Flowers, and I chose it because the flower part in the middle looked like the snowflakes or stars that are on Santa's suit. So again, I want everything to work together. And I'm using Prussian blue, which is on the blue, green, teal spectrum. And I'm not trying to get this perfect, just hints of it. And I'm trying to do some randomness here. And I like how that the darkness is adding that little bit of contrast. That Prussian blue was also in the background of that gel print. Not exactly sure where I'm going to glue my Santa, so I'm putting the stenciling all over the place, and then I'll decide later on. I can keep my options open. I like how some of the stenciling is a little more vivid, others is very um, faded looking. I will be using this Sparkle Slimline stencil later. Now that I've decided where my Santa's going, I'm adding a little bit of this fence grid stenciling. And you might have to tweak it once you finalize your decisions. You may want better coverage. Now I didn't tape off the top, and that's why. Look at that, I've got a mess there. I do paint that out with white gesso just to clean it up. And because this is thicker, I'm using gel medium, matte finish to glue it down. And of course, even though I don't show it in my videos, I dry everything in between layers. But you don't need to watch me use the heat tool. I'm loving the background here. I love how the Santa looks. I go and cut out or I print out the phrase, believe in the magic. But you could put any sentiment you want. Now, the white was a little too stark for me, so I do make it play nicer in a bit. Right here, I am using my shading technique, and I am shading around the Santa on the gel print. I do go afterwards and I shade on top of the Santa, kind of a double shade effect. This makes the Santa pop off from the background, stand out. And I put some, then I let it dry, and I come back and I add more. All three of those Slimline stencils are from the Crafter's Workshop. And they are new in fall 2021. And they are available right now in various places, but they are available at TCW, and there's a affiliate link and coupon code in the description box for there. And here I'm shading on top of the napkin part. Remember that has a coat of matte medium, which is important. Otherwise it's going to soak into a raw paper napkin and you may get an effect that you don't really like. Just adding a little bit of darks here and there. Little shadows. And now, because I want to tie in the white that's behind the sentiment, I'm just adding white to the beard and the the fur of Santa's coat. I just want that a little brighter than it is. I'm just using white gesso. You could use white acrylic paint. And I'm just making it brighter to make that white of the sentiment fit in a little bit better. The other alternative would have been to paint it with maybe Naples yellow or brown to make it fit more, because the feel of this page is fairly vintage. I'm loving that background. People ask, what do I do with the pages? The pages are kind of a portfolio. They are a place that I go for inspiration. I might flip through this, and while I may not want to do a Santa page, I may love that background and I may try to recreate it for another purpose, for another focal image, or use the color scheme off of it. Now I'm just shading and edging the page with the same shading technique. And if you're learning how to do this shading technique, I do have a video that teaches it, but doing the straight edges, edging the paper with that is a great place to start because it's the easiest. Realizing I still don't have this glued down very well, so grabbing some gel medium and gluing it down. And then giving it a quick dry before I move on to the next step. I decide to grab this Star Sparkle stencil and this copper penny modeling paste from the Crafter's Workshop, and I'm stenciling on these stars. I'm adding some shimmer. Seems to go with the sentiment that I've chose, believe in the magic. The stars work well with the crystal flower stencil in the background and those little snowflake stars that are on the Santa napkin. I just move the stencil around and put on as many stars as I like. Add some shimmer. It ties in that copper color, works really well with the Santa suit. And it's actually in the background. It was part of that original gel print. So we use scrapbook papers, gel prints, collage papers to help you figure out what kind of background to use with different focal images. Audition them. Try them out. Loving that shimmer. Of course, adding texture as well with the modeling paste. Now, as is the case with most times, when you grab out the modeling paste, you got modeling paste on the stencil, you have a little bit left over. Sometimes I scrape it up and put it back in the container, but it's a little harder than whatever, and it ends up going to waste. So I'm going to put it into my accidental art journal. I'm just going to stencil that in, pushing it all in. If I get a perfect stencil, great. If I don't, I'm okay with that too. I found this page. I picked this because the colors seemed to work together. It might be a little early to put modeling paste, but the accidental journal, these pages will evolve. I can always put a coat of gesso on top of these to change the color at a later date. They're still going to add some wonderful texture. And I'm using something that would be otherwise discarded. So set that aside for the next project. Now his eyes are blue, and I'm just grabbing some of that blue-green and I've watered it down, and I'm just making his eyes a little bit bluer so it really works exactly with my background. I don't know if you could tell the difference, but it did make a difference to me. So even if his eyes were a different color, I could have painted them blue to match what I'm doing here. So we're going to finish this page, and I'm going to use my prompt and process cards to review the steps. So I used Insta Background Collage Sheet. In this case, it was a gel print, and that helped, and it worked because it's a complementary color scheme. It's right opposite, that green teal is right opposite the orange red, and that's why this works. I used some couple stencils and added more interest to the background using the colors that were already in there. The color story was already started by the gel print. I chose to use a napkin as the focal image, and actually, truth be told, that's where I started. I was going to use this adorable Santa. I shaded around the Santa and on the Santa, and I edged the page using the shading technique as well. I added a sentiment to the page, I bubble cut around it, and I made it match the white. I did a little bit of painting on top to match the white. Then I added modeling paste through another stencil to add some shimmer and shine and texture. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed watching this process. I hope you give it a try, whether you make a Christmas one, an art journal page, a mixed media piece, or use this idea and use a different theme. Bye for now.